That's, it's...
Okay, good morning everyone.
Morning.
First you have to thank Renan for getting the bagels.
What?
No, we don't have to thank you.
Joseph
Yosef Schwartz for sponsoring. Trivia question, who put the tablecloths on the tables? Avi Weberman. And Daniel Stoll for administering everything as usual.
Making sure the tablecloths were ready for Avi to put on the table.
Oh, there you go. And who ordered them?
Tablecloths?
Yeah. Okay, excellent.
The rest of us are schleppers and take advantage of these other guys.
Right. And munch on the bagels. That's what we do.
Terrible thing.
Okay, we're still in the middle of Perek Yud Aleph, the long Perek when Mesillas Yesharim is going through Nikiyas. Different examples of Nikiyas, since by definition Nikiyas is more subtle, it's those small little connections we have to Averas, so there's a need for the Mesillas Yesharim to go through many, many examples. He discusses Shmira Shabbos. So we're all Shemir Shabbos, we all keep Shabbos, hopefully. But there are various halachas that are difficult and that are not always on our minds. We know we can't light fires on Shabbos, and we can't select, and we can't build houses on Shabbos. But it says in the Mesillas Yesharim, what about talking about business-related matters? About hachana, about preparation. The Gemara says a person should not walk near his property on Shabbos to see what needs to be fixed, what has to be planted. Even though Ikra Din it's mutter just to maharher about one's business matters, but it's definitely, the Shulchan Aruch says, it's advisable to stay away from that. And on Shabbos, to focus on Shabbos. My wife's great-grandfather, Moshe Yehuda Genauer, who came to Seattle, Washington in the turn of last century. My wife's grandfather was born in Seattle, Washington. He would have been like 106. So his father, Moshe Yehuda Genauer, came years before that, and he had a shmata business. He sold suits, and someone mentioned to him, you're losing out a lot of money. You're closed on Shabbos. Get a non-Jewish partner, and then you can be open on Shabbos. You can find a way that it's mutter. The non-Jew will get a percentage of the profits, and he's doing it for himself. And there's a way you can make that 100% lechatchila, not a problem. So this Moshe Yehuda Genauer said that I don't want to be sitting in shul and thinking about how the business is going. So therefore, that's a Mesillas Nefesh. That's not Mikra Din. He's allowed to do that. But that's, he wants Shabbos to be his day of rest, not thinking about what's going on as far as his business is concerned. So Mesillas Yesharim is talking about more Me'ikr Hadin, about a person taka not thinking about business, about making sure that Shabbos is his day of rest. That's what he says there. Until now, he's been talking about mitzvahs and averos. Then, now, the Mesillas Yesharim is mechadish. V'hinei k'mo shetzarech b'maisim. Just like we need nikiyas, you have to be clean when it comes to our actions, to the mitzvahs. Kach tzarech nikiyas b'midos. We also need nikiyas when it comes to our good, to character traits, to midos. And he singles out 4 midas, which are gaiva, arrogance. Is anybody here arrogant? Don't answer the question. Gaiva, kas, anger, kina, and taiva, jealousy and desire. So it's actually interesting. There are 4 yesod, I think we mentioned in the past. There are 4 foundations, fundamental materials that the world was made from. You have eish, fire, water, mayim, ruach, the wind, and ofer, the dirt. So in Kabbalah, they represent 4 midos. So eish is the gaiva, the kas, the kina, the anger, the jealousy, the arrogance. Mayim is the taiva, desire. That's where kedusha comes in. Ofer is like depression, inertia, and ruach is people like to talk a lot. It's just interesting that the 4 midas that the Mesillas Yesharim chooses to focus on as, I guess, being like the 4, we'll say the worst ones, the ones that we're most nichshel in. 3 are from eish, and 1 is from mayim. It's just interesting that the eish midas ra'os seem to be a very difficult ones to deal with. So he says that we don't have to discuss why these are bad and destructive. If you've ever seen a person angry, or if a person's ever felt jealous, a person will realize for a second that these midas they can ruin relationships, they can ruin communities. He quotes the Gemara that says in Shabbos, Kol HaKoyos, whoever gets angry, Yihye beinecha, it should be viewed like that person who's angry himself who's angry, Kilu Oved Avodah Zarah, as if he is worshipping idols. Hakina v'hatayva v'hakavar mitzias adam min ha'olam mishtas and Pirkei Avos. Jealousy and desire and covet, the desire for covet, takes a person out of the world. He says these midos are chutz min haseichel. These midos don't operate with, if one's seichel, if one's intellect is being shoylet, is running him, he's not going to have these feelings of arrogance and anger and jealousy. He then goes on to list 5 types of balei gaiva, which it's fun to go through it because you get to think about all the people you know and see which category they fall into. But the problem is that we often skip over ourselves, and it's not as much fun to realize, well, which category do I fall into? So let's see, what are the 4 categories? There's there's one type of Baal Gaiva who thinks to himself that shekeven shu roi letehila v'hu miyuchad v'rashim b'ma'alasa. I'm deserving of praise because I have certain milas, certain talents, k'fi machshavta, according to my thought, that a person should really copy me and be like me. And therefore, when he walks in a certain way, and he sits and he stands, and he's very careful how he moves his body, and he walks benachas, akeva b'tzad gudloi, and he doesn't sit. He's always leaning back. He holds himself to be very chashuv, and when he gets up, he gets it very slowly. I'm someone people should look at and try to copy. So therefore, I'm very careful how I act in my tnuas, in my pu'ulas, my machal, v'mishtav, how he eats, how he drinks. He's very, very careful. That's one type of person, right? There's another type of person that thinks, since this person has so many milas and he's befitting of praise. So, tzarich sheyeh margiz ha'aretz. So how do they translate that? He has to terrorize. He has the right to terrorize the world.
Trump.
Sha'kol yir'ashim mipanav. Everyone. Who are you thinking of?
Trump.
He has to terrorize the world, and everyone should be afraid of him. When I walk into the room, I want to see everyone bowing down to me. I want to see the look on their faces that they're scared of me. When I talk to them, I want to see the fear. I want to see them stuttering when they try to respond to me. No, you're going to ask me for something? Who are you? Right? I'm big and chashuv. You're going to ask me for a favor, something you want me to do something for you? That's another type of gaiva. That when they actually approach him, Yevalim, B'koiloi, V'ruach Sfasav, Yehumeim, he yells and he's loud, and that intimidates people. That's the second type of Baal Gaiva. So it's the same, it's interesting, it's the same Nakuda. This person thinks that he's chashuv. So there's 2 ways for that to come out. Either he's very benachasdik, and you can see how he walks and how he holds himself to be, or he's terrorizing the world. 2 different ways for the same Nakuda, the same hashchasa in the person to come out. A third type of Baal Gaiva, Yeshgei Acher, Shiachshav believe, he thinks to himself, Shekfarhu kol kach gadol mechubad, he is so great, Achi efshel lechavod she's parish mimenu ve'en tzarich leklal. I am a walking piece of kavod, right? So I don't need you to be mechabed me. I don't need kavod. And the opposite is true. He does acts of anivus. He acts so humble. He walks around like this. He acts like such a humble person. Because he views himself as being so chashuv that he doesn't need your kavod, and the kavod detracts from his kavod. So he just goes as a humble person. So when you see a humble person, it could be he's taka humble, it could be he's a big Baal Gaiva. Again, wants to look at himself as well. There's a fourth type of Baal Gaiva. He wants to be highly celebrated for his qualities. Actually, it's not enough that they praise him. He's so smart, and he's so intelligent, and he's such a Baal Chesed. He wants them to also praise him that he's such an anuv, that he's so humble. He wants every single praise in the world. So he's misga'eh, he's arrogant in his anivus, in his humbleness. And that is very, very, even though they show themselves, what he's pointing out in Mesillas Yesharim is, even though these people show themselves as being big anavim, as being very humble, lo yibatu michsholos lahem, there's going to be a lot of stumbling, a lot of obstacles for them. Because without knowing, they're going to be their arrogance is going to be shown. If a person is not truly humble, there'll be cracks in his humbleness, and his arrogance will come out. There is a fifth type of Baal Gaiva, and this Baal Gaiva, the first 2 types, it's overt. The second 2 types, it's kind of hidden. The fifth type is also hidden. It's a person who the Gaiva is kfura b'libo. The arrogance stays in his heart. And lo yotzi'uha el hamaisa, he does not let it come out. He doesn't act on it. El yechashu bilavavam. These people think in their hearts. Shekvarhim chacham gedolim. I'm very smart. Yoidei hadvarim la'amitam. I know the emes. I know how to make things work. I know what has to be done. V'shaloi rabim yechkemu kamayim. No one understands the world as well as I do. Alkein lo yeshisu leidel divrei zulos. And they're not going to listen to what anyone else has to say because I know how to run things. I know what should happen. B'chashvam kima shekasha aleihem lo yenakal acherim. Whatever any difficulty I have, you won't be able to help me because if I can't figure out the answer, for sure you can't figure out the answer. Masha sichla mar lehen. What my intellect tells me to be true. Kol kach baruhu, it is so clear to me. What I hold true is so clear. But kol kach pashuhu, and it's so simple and obvious to me. They don't care what anyone else has to say because what I hold is true. I have no doubts about. So he says that all these things are obviously very destructive. So that's a very dangerous Baal Gaiva who does not take anyone else's opinion into account. The Pasuk in Mishlei says, "Al teitze the riv maher." You shouldn't run out to fight quickly. Pen yachlim oischa v'achrisecha, something like that. I forget the exact lashon because you might get embarrassed in the end. Don't be quick to fight and to debate someone else because you're convinced that you're right. Because in the end you might become embarrassed. The Vilna Gaon, the Gra explains that means that you always have to have this thought when you're coming to debate someone or convince someone of your opinion. So you hold you're smart, which it could be you are smart, many of us are intelligent, but you have to realize the other guy also might be smart. And just like you're convinced that you're right, he's convinced that he's right. And maybe he's taka right. Maybe he's right. I mean, you're both balei seichel. Many of us we're intelligent people, and we've had experiences. We've learned from our experiences, and we have intellect. And just because I'm convinced that I'm right, because I am smart, I believe so, the other guy is also smart. Maybe he's right. So if I'm going to run out and start debating with this confidence and like a Mayan HaMizgaber, I'm going to come out against the guy, and then all of a sudden he's going to point out a point I never thought of, I'm going to be humbled. But if I come out normally, then I'll avoid that embarrassment. So that is what the Mesillas Yesharim is focusing on here when it comes to Gaiva, that a person has to be very careful and look into himself. Again, it's easy to point fingers at other people and say, he's like that, he's like that, he's like that. But with these 5 categories of Balei Gaiva, arrogant people, I'm sure we can all find on some level how it applies to us. And this is the kiyas. Right? We're all keeping Shabbos, we're all keeping Kashrus, and we're all doing Chesed, and we're all very from Jews. But when it comes to Nikiyas and Midas, how much time do we invest in making sure that the way we're acting is in line with the Torah, and that we're nucky from any bad Midas? So the project we'll have for this week will be to review these 5 types of Balei Gaiva, of arrogant people, and try to think if and where we connect to any one of these 5 types of Gaiva and try to eradicate.
But aren't all these 5 kind of like extreme? We just got to find where we might partially fit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think many of us would fall into a clear one of these categories in a clear manner.
Kind of
but on our level, each on our own level, it could be aspects of it.